Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cringe Talk on the Cold Moon Network. I'm Matt.
And I'm David.
And today we're going to be talking about the new movie, Life.
Life itself.
I've got my issues with this movie, David. I don't know if I would categorize it as a horror film. I know you would. And
I feel like you like that just because of space films. That's just the way you are.
I don't know where I draw the line.
Here, how about this? How about this? Usually, most typically, science fictions, as you wanted to classify this film to be, are usually taking place far into the future. This is not so far into the future.
This could be current.
Exactly. So that kind of debunks your whole science fiction.
It just, I feel like as soon as you're in space, it is a thriller.
What about Jason X?
That I'm having trouble because Jason X falls into the category of the Friday the 13th films, which are going to be horror. It really just depends what kind of horror you like and what kind of horror you... See, I like the old school horror, and I think you do too, but I think you just have a broader idea of what horror is, which is not a bad thing. But I think for me, I'm not going to categorize it as a horror film. Even if it is categorized technically as a horror film, it's a space movie to me.
Look, as long as it tries to scare you...
It does try to scare you, but a lot of things
that's a horror film to me. Like here, how about this? I have a pretty decent comparison. When you have like something like Gravity.
Yeah.
Okay, Gravity. Scary. No, it's scary. Scary. Though it has more of that vibe where it's a thriller. It's basically not so much for your suspense, but like it's like, what is going to happen to Sandra Bullock next? It's a survival thing, and I know we have that in life as well. Though we see people being capped off in life, one by one. Whereas in Gravity, we are focused on one character, her survival. It's a bit more philosophical, more symbolic. Not that life doesn't bring that as well, but I mean, principally, it's really focused on life. Is basically they're trying to scare you. Whereas Gravity is just her trying to survive through natural space. And there's nothing artificial to it. There's nothing almost supernatural to it.
Yeah.
So I guess obviously I feel like your argument obviously bodes well with Gravity, but it's not a horror at all. But though it does try to scare you. You have Life. Yeah. Life is basically trying to scare you. Something's trying to kill you.
I'm all over the place on this. I'm not saying my logic is grounded in anything.
Neither
useful.
is Life. It's not grounded. They're in gravity the whole time. They're on low gravity the whole time.
A film like Sunshine starts off like a sci-fi space movie, ends up more of a horror film because you got someone who's murdering people.
I get to see that.
You have Event Horizon. They are on a haunted ship.
Okay, right, yeah.
The ship is murdering people. It's making Sam Neill go crazy. So,
or even 2001. I mean, like the last part of the storyline, right, with Dave.
That's true. It's true. It's all over the place. So I just don't know. I don't know what to say. But you know what? We are covering it. So
I made you look. I made you do it. And I just said, you know what? Yeah. We got to do it.
And I'm glad. I'm pro-life, David.
Good. Because Belko experience, someone doesn't have a Canadian release date. So for those who've already seen it, please don't spoil it, because I would love to see it.
Yeah, we're going to try and cover Belko Experiment as soon as we can get our filthy little hands on a copy, because it's not playing in Canada as far as we can tell. So this is going to hold us over for a bit.
A little bit.
David, were you pro-life?
I am so pro-life. In general, like, in any connotation.
So yeah, you don't believe that women should be allowed abortions?
Oh boy. I didn't think you stretched it that far, but
there's a topic for a different show. One that we are
I'm for abortions, but
so David, king of abortions, and we need to move on. We need to move on, David.
I hate when you put me on the spot on these political things.
Well,
it's the woman's choice. There you go. That's it. We're good.
So man should have no say.
That's right. Men have no say.
Okay, like I was going to say, we are not qualified to have this discussion, and even less so to have it recorded. So let's move on. I like the film. I liked just the atmosphere of it. No pun intended. There was no atmosphere.
Oh, so pun intended.
What did you like?
Okay, well, you know what? I feel like when we look, people are obviously the first thing is compare it to Alien. That's the first thing to compare it to. Now, when you compare the let's say the opening to Alien, and you have the versus the opening to Life. The opening to Alien seems to be more of like I'd say it's a display of cinema in a way. Like, it was introducing this nuance of a science fiction, a whole new take, and they're portraying that right away. So it's like, you're already taken into this. You're introduced to the cast. You're introduced to the ship. You're introduced to how things go.
Are you talking about Alien or Life?
This is Alien.
Because so far that's exactly what Life is like.
Well, here's a slight difference with Life.
Okay.
Because don't forget, the first shot is you just see stars.
Yeah, but it's all a continuous shot too.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, no.
Cinematic.
Before we get into the ship, you just see stars and you hear this uneasy music, and then it cuts to the thing they're trying to catch, basically that satellite. That's basically that's the samples from Mars.
Yeah.
So we see that spinning. So you're uneasy about this.
Yeah.
Now, contrary to Alien, Life basically has this one shot where basically they're going through the entire ship. You're following people here and there. You're going upside down at some point, and they're basically getting ready for a certain mission, which is going to be a difficult one. Mm-hmm. And you're buying into it because it looks very difficult. You have the challenges of space, and only one person is able to do it is Ryan Reynolds, the lovable Ryan Reynolds. Whereas in Alien, you're introduced to every single character, slowly showing the confines of the ship, showing what they're there for. You don't even know what mission they're at. They have to be woken up to go pass by this planet just to investigate. When really we find out later is that they want to get that specimen, which turned out to be Alien that terrorizes them.
Spoilers
for Alien, right? So that's why when people put this side by side, they have different approaches. They'll obviously tell a similar story and go about it completely different too. But you saw a lot of values in Life. You saw a lot of combination of like The Thing, a little bit of Aliens. What else relates to it in a way?
All them space movies.
Thing's not a space movie technically.
What? The Thing?
The Thing's not a space movie.
Alien.
It came from space, but yeah.
Came from outer space. And yeah, so I don't know what you're saying right now. Are you saying did you like the movie, David?
I did. I already said that. I'm just saying, like,
going
people.
Back to
I just
the bare
feel like
bones of this, so I want to know.
I just feel like people compare it together, and it's just like they are different. They are different in a certain way, but still try to tell the same thing. And that's why with Alien, you're not presented with Alien, you're not presented a situation like a sense of urgency. Whereas in Life, you're already presented that right away. Yeah. And I find that's more standard because if you're going to be taken to another ship. Like, just the intro, the whole same thing, it becomes redundant. It's already been done before. It's not redundant. I don't know. I would say it's repetitive.
Yeah, it's old hat. You go up in space. There's very limited stories you can tell up in space. I don't think it's fair to compare it to Alien. I know we kind of have to because it's so comparable to Alien, but it's got to stand on its own, and it didn't really reinvent the wheel with this movie. It was just an enjoyable film. Nothing crazy. I liked a fairly depressing ending.
Yeah.
Opened it up for a sequel. I don't necessarily want a sequel out of it. I like it just being a depressing ending where it's like, well, we probably know how things are going to go.
I like the ending. Just I feel like it was like a throwback to like a lot of often those old school horror films, obviously, where they just have to have that that crazy twist at the end, and it was done perfect. I think it was done well too because when I don't know if we'll get to it later if you want to get to it now, just when they both depart, you're wondering who's who and who got hit and where are they going, and then we see what it is at the end. You're like, oh man, that's like you kind of saw it coming because the thing that gives it away is that why are they taking so much time to approach the thing that lands on Earth?
As soon as that happened, but there are other options. They tried to fool you a few times. There were different things they could have done. We'll get into that as we we're not really doing a recap, but we'll talk about it. Maybe in a little bit of a more structured way. We'll talk about the end closer to the end.
Right. Instead of bringing the end right away.
So at the very beginning of this, I like the one-shot deal.
Yeah, it was great.
With the way cinema is going, you don't necessarily have to do all that in one shot. Could have been edited together.
It could have. Still
nice visual. How do they film people floating around?
I don't know.
Are they on wires? I always sound very uneducated now.
I think
but I'm just trying to figure this out. Like, is it wires seem like it makes the most sense, but they could have gone to an anti-gravity.
I'm thinking that's what they did. It had to
for the whole film.
No, because I felt like there were certain times, when they're just standing upright at some point. There's a couple times where I felt like I caught them standing upright. There's no way that this insert was done in a zero gravity atmosphere. We should look this up.
No, just using our heads.
All right, fine, we'll just use our imagination. But I'm like wires. That'd be really hard to hide, and even just for them to be natural and just have them swim through. Yeah, you can't even call it swim. It's zero gravity. So I don't know what you're doing, but it's like
So they gotta have gone to a zero gravity machine. That makes the most sense. I'm going to stick with that.
Can you imagine? Well, even just like, I don't know, would it be such a fun thing the whole time? I think it'd be fun at first, but at some point when you want to get somewhere, it's like, okay, I need you to go here, and that's going to be.
Well, you can shut that machine off.
You can
very easily,
I guess, but it's just like it's we'll cut and we shut it down. Everybody has to hold on to something and they land on the ground. But these things are actually pretty high too. If you're on zero gravity, I mean, like the set has to be pretty high as well. Because don't forget, you want to have some camera shots. Some cameras are installed at the top for them.
Yeah,
some
well, I'm not going to pretend I know how they film this at all. But
yeah, I know. But
I just understand that in 2017, this is not a hard film to shoot.
I think it presents its challenges for sure.
Yeah, but I don't think they're not blowing you away with its visuals necessarily. It's all been done.
No.
But all this to say, I still think it was a pretty great movie. David, what is it with space movies needing to space their letters apart as far as possible? We've seen it in Alien. I think they were probably one of the first.
What do you mean by letters?
Oh, the opening
title,
yeah.
Because they're short titles.
Yeah, so Alien needs to be spaced out. Life is also, you got the L all the way to the left, the E, fill in the gaps.
Totally.
Very reminiscent of Alien. I guess that's what people start comparing it right off the bat now.
Quite of a cold open, actually, too. There's a lot that happens before the titles actually come up.
It's true. Yeah.
A lot. It wasn't.
They capture the probe.
Exactly. Yeah. And I thought that specimen. I thought that it would have been suited for the title to come up after we saw the satellite just going through space. But then they actually took him to the spaceship. So that was interesting.
And I'm thinking, no way is this the proper procedure for catching a probe hurling through space, because it really looks like it did some damage to that ship. It's like when it's coming at them, I'm like, man, Ryan Reynolds is not equipped to catch this thing at this velocity, because this is not an easy catch. Yeah, you can catch it, but the speed that it's coming at is going to do some damage.
He's at great risk being there too.
Yeah, and he got it though.
He did.
I mean, that's the whole reason they were up there, so he better get it.
Yeah. Well, he said if it doesn't work, bring it up, put it out to deep space. You have no choice.
Like, at least deflect it.
But I think they did position the ship in a way that they could safely catch it to a certain degree for them not to sustain any damage, because they didn't sustain any big damage. We see more damage done to the ship later, but
I'm no astronaut, but it seems like you don't want your ship being blasted through.
I've seen enough Star Trek of the new one to see what happens when the Enterprise is under attack.
But there's always a way out.
Yeah.
If we've learned anything from space movies, there's always another satellite poking around that you can
hopefully
swim out to.
Oh boy.
David, I did have something else to say, but I've forgotten.
Oh boy.
What would you like to how do you want to start this off? I mean, the music was pretty great. Even from the get-go. Very, very unsettling.
It set the tone right away from the start, as I said.
Yeah.
When you see Ryan Reynolds right outside the ship.
We should get into character names here. Ryan Reynolds. Yeah. Let's focus on calling him Rory.
He's Rory Adams.
It won't be hard to remember because he doesn't make it very long in the film.
Unfortunately, no. And he's the engineer. I think he's one of the engineers, right? What is he? No, he's like a repairman, basically, isn't he? Some sort of like fancy repairman.
Basically, I mean, he's got to have some brains to be up there, but he's probably the least educated up there.
He says he's the most expendable compared to all of them. That's what he says. He's anybody could do what I do, but nobody could do what you do, so you can't make any mistakes. That's the point he elaborates.
Oh yeah, when he's talking to Hugh.
Exactly, Hugh, played by Arian Bakar. Right, I hope that's how you pronounce his name. But yeah, Arian Bakar is one of the biological scientists on board, and he says, when there was a crucial mistake, as we get to it later, Ryan Reynolds says, "I'm expendable, you're not." Yeah,
and going through the cast of characters, we also have Hiroyuki Sanada.
I think he says the best way he can.
Sho Murakami. I could not think of him as anybody other than Dogen from Lost. You don't know him from Lost, but he looks the exact same as in Lost.
Yeah, and he's one of the communications officers, I think, right?
He's the
representative of Japan.
Yeah, the classic Japanese astronaut. He's got the red circle on his arm. Just
classic Japanese. What is that? Were you seeing another classic space movies for Japanese in a space movie?
It's a very
you have to show diversity in these films, right?
It's a very diverse
because it's
crew.
NASA, right?
It's a very diverse crew.
It has to,
except for Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal. Jake Gyllenhaal.
Generic. It's Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, because they got Olga Dichovichiana. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce her name. She plays Ekaterina Golovkina.
A lot easier to pronounce.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm a star.
She's a communications officer too, I think.
Communications officer. Hugh, we've already talked about. What does Jake Gyllenhaal's character do?
He's
David Jordan.